Hey everyone, I'm so glad to be here with you on this platform. This is an amazing opportunity for me, so I would like to thank to IoT Village team for their support and to everyone who is listening me now. My name is Ecem KISACIK. I worked at the hectic aviation industry for about 7 years, and nowadays I am an independent cybersecurity researcher. Today I will talk about smart airports. We have always been talking about smart cities and everything, but ignoring the subsystems of the smart cities. So I will talk about how the traditional airports evolved into smart airports and how they will be evolving. Well, here's today's agenda. First, I will cover the airport structure, the main components, in order to set the scene for the IoT systems and devices playground. Then I will mention about the IoT systems and devices, their potential threats and vulnerabilities, some use cases and examples, and the future of smart airports. First of all, I would like to mention about the conventional airports. The beginning of civil aviation was around 1930s, and the airports were very basic. They only focused on safety. Safe operation, successful takeoff and landing were more important than the comfort of the passengers. Landside and airside of the airport were not clearly separated. Yes, these images can clearly illustrate how the landside and airside were merged into another. These photos also represent the contemporary airports all around the world those days. Uh, there is a prominent saying that aviation regulations are written in blood. You cannot make mistakes in aviation sector. So after severe accidents and FOD, foreign object damaged threat, landside and airside are separated from each other. And after 19 years, the passengers began to wait at terminals for boarding, and nowadays it is strictly prohibited for passengers to wait in apron area. As we can see in this picture from 1970s, the apron is cleared from the passengers. Nice Concorde, by the way. Well, airport zones. Landside is more public, airside is more restricted. Here in Europe adds another part, terminal. And as we can see, the airport perimeter, the roads, parking lots, fences are landside. Apron area, taxiways, runways, gates are airside. The last stage before smart airports ended about a decade ago. This stage cared about passenger travel experience. On the other hand, IT was involved. Airports used a network to connect different parts of the building or different services. Seamless data sharing was important. IT was important. And this was the modern airport. Nowadays, of course, airports all around the world use these modern technologies, but a few of them also began to use IoT and became smart airports, like Istanbul Airport in Turkey, the latest one. In these smart airports, a lot of sensors are connected for the power services. They analyze the sensing data real time. They use evolving technologies like AI, artificial intelligence, RFID, big data, every day. Nowadays, contemporary airports use these technologies in order to control the critical infrastructures, which is the most important mission, to eliminate the minor errors and to provide a seamless travel experience for their passengers. Seamless travel is important. I know that it cannot be compared to ensure the security of the critical infrastructures, but it will always be important because being a passenger is very difficult. Imagine yourself at the airport with a couple of big bags, hand baggages, maybe with your family, children, relatives, or you have to wait for another 6 hours for your next transit flights. See, it is difficult. Easier travel experience makes passengers happy. Smart airports are the successor of the modern airports, and they are the perfect playground for IoT and cyber physical technology. So I kept saying smart airports, but what is a smart airport? There is not only one definition of a smart airport, so I chose a concise one. Here I chose the ENISA definition. In short, this definition stresses the seamless travel experience and high-level security. And a view from a smart airport. There are a bunch of intelligent devices in a smart airport. Nowadays, most of them evolved to be health-related because of COVID. Here we can see the e-gates. Travelers can use e-gates in order to check in or customs clearance procedures. With the help of e-gates, the passengers can verify their identity. At some airports, both face recognition technology and password verification are used to confirm the identity. Especially post-COVID, travelers prefer e-gates because it is very quick. For example, at Dubai Airport, travelers use them to clear immigration in 15 seconds. Kiosks. There are Wi-Fi kiosks and check-in kiosks. Wi-Fi kiosks provide codes for the passengers during their stay at the terminal, and there are check-in kiosks. Passengers can check in, drop off their luggage, and receive their boarding passes easily. For example, United Airlines has launched touchless check-ins at London Heathrow Airport. It is the first touchless check-in that any airline has installed at the airport. Travelers use their mobile devices to check in at the kiosk. Also, there are self-bag drops at the airports like Budapest and Schiphol. Thanks to robots at the entrance of the airports, the passengers can be directly connected to an airport official by pressing a button. They will provide flight information after a passenger scans the boarding pass. Also, there are some use cases such as ultraviolet C disinfection robots at Heathrow Airport. These robots can clean high traffic areas in airports to prevent the spread of COVID. It also sanitizes luggage. In Hong Kong, there is a disinfection booth and it can clean a person in about 40 seconds. And monitoring systems. Smart airports use biometric IoT systems. These systems can distinguish the healthy people from the COVID-infected people. In Australia, Avalon Airport has such systems that can record the vital signs of a traveler such as temperature and heart rate, etc. Moving on with the systems and devices. First, I will cover the Landside systems and devices. Kiosks, check-in systems, as I mentioned before, environmental systems like power, lighting, sensors, fire alarms, etc. The lights of the airport are controlled by an application. Their status monitored and analyzed real time, informing the airport staff in case of a failure or in case of a fire or smoke. Smart CCTV. There are thousands of cameras at smart airports, and they can monitor the entire airport, especially high-risk areas, or act as a wayfinding service system sensor. Passenger area Wi-Fi, wayfinding services. I want to mention about them. Cameras at the entrance of a smart airport can analyze the number of people per 100 square meters and can relay heat density information to an application, helping the system divert crowds to uncrowded gates. Also, geofinding technologies provide indoor directions at the terminals. And there are systems like passenger screening, perimeter intrusion detection, and baggage screening and handling. They use RFID for tagging and tracking, so passengers can view their luggage location by applications. Now I want to mention about the potential threats of these systems and devices. For smart CCTV, there are a lot of potential attacks such as spoofing and denial of service. They affect these sensors and also allow access to other critical assets. For check-in systems, man-in-the-middle attacks is one of these attacks. Attackers can intercept the traffic to steal personal information or to alter passenger information. For environmental systems, these include hacking the sensors and altering the sensing data. As a consequence, there would be chaos, false alarms, or even flight delays. Temperature monitoring. The attacks can lead false alarms. The monitors cannot distinguish the healthy people from the sick people, so the virus can spread through the airport. For IoT network, smart airports usually use LoRaWAN because of the power concerns. Jamming and replay attacks are threats for LoRaWAN. These attacks aim to gain access to sensors. An average airport has 3,000 LoRa-based sensors of 10,000 total sensors. Usually these sensors are used for monitoring the location of luggage or vehicles. Now the most critical systems of an airport, airside systems and devices. A few of them are flight tracking systems, meteorological information systems, departure control systems, air traffic management systems. Air traffic control unit or the tower manages these systems. Nowadays, many air navigation service providers are trying to automate the management process. For example, in Berlin-Brandenburg Airport, they tried to control the systems remotely in 2020. There are also runway lighting and control systems, air-to-satellite systems in communications, geographic information systems. And runway lighting systems or SCADA on runways. We can say intelligent lighting. Thousands of smart light bulbs maintain the visual guiding on taxiways and runways. Here we can see the systems configuration of these systems. These systems are crucial for aviation operations because runway, taxiways, all the airfields must be illuminated properly 24 hours a day. And what about potential threats? Aircraft Instrument Landing Systems, ILS, are vulnerable to wireless attacks like replay attacks. This attack could be performed with software-defined radios. Spoofing ILS radio signals causes aborted landing or off-runway landing. Smart lights. Accessing to only one smart light bulb is enough. Then the malware will spread through the entire network. Runway lights are crucial for an airport. Nowadays, airports use SCADA systems with adjacent lamp fault detection. And the air traffic control. During a flight, an aircraft communicates with air traffic control stations. Aircraft transmits a signal that carries the flight information. Attackers can spoof the information, spread the wrong flight information, and cause emergency descents, diverts, and emergency landings. In-flight Wi-Fi. Each airline has its own in-flight Wi-Fi costs. For example, some airlines offer free Wi-Fi for business class, and economy class passengers have to purchase it. So some attackers hack their way through the in-flight entertainment system. You can see the host enumeration in the first photo. The aircraft has Panasonic system, and when selecting the web server's IP, user interface is starting up. Drones. Drones are the new lasers, more dangerous. Drones can fly near the network nodes and utilize wireless protocols to connect and compromise them. Man-in-the-middle and data spoofing attacks are the most common ones. They cause aircraft damage or accidents during takeoff and landing. In December 2018, for example, drones caused the shutdown of London Gatwick Airport, and a drone caused the suspension of flights in Frankfurt, Germany in March 2020. Now I want to talk about the vulnerabilities. No security perimeter defined. It is not possible to ensure that the necessary security controls are deployed. So this leads to unauthorized access to systems. In secure architecture, security gaps may cause backdoors. Remote controls, they must be controlled to prevent unauthorized access. Denial of service. Unauthorized personnel. Physical access to systems should be restricted to only the necessary personnel. Lack of backup power. General loss of power without backup will shut down the critical assets. Loss of environmental control, for example, temperature, could lead to equipment damage. These were SCADA-related vulnerabilities. There is also widely held belief that the SCADA systems in the airport are isolated from the main IT backbone, or SCADA systems are safe, but they are not. They are very vulnerable to numerous cyber threats. Crook, there are tons of Wi-Fi vulnerabilities, but this is one of the most common of the protocol-based vulnerabilities. It affects a lot of well-known wireless routers in airports. Encapsulation system, aircraft control gateways on aircrafts. It is directly connected to aircraft control unit and vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks. Besides, in some aircrafts, network devices are accessible by passengers. So the next generation aircrafts like Airbus A350, Boeing 787 may require a brand new network design, and there will be new vulnerabilities. Communications, air-to-air and air-to-ground communication are vulnerable to jamming and eavesdropping attacks. Bleeding tooth, IoT devices are vulnerable to this flaw. It allows an unauthenticated user to enable denial of service. Snapdragon, it is an embedded platform, and some airports use it for operations. It has various vulnerabilities from 2017 to 2020, mostly buffer overflow. Some use cases and examples. Smart airports equals honeypots. Smart airports are perfect for various attacks. Thousands of cameras, access points, network nodes, and all of them are vulnerable to threats, vary from smartphones, email, USB devices to targeted botnet and ransomware attacks. Thus, millions of hacking attempts occur. Some past attacks to airports are as follows. In 2004, British Airways and Delta Airlines were hit with the saucer worm, and flights were delayed or cancelled. because of a buffer overflow vulnerability. In August 2016, Delta suspended and cancelled flights due to a power failure near Delta's headquarters in Atlanta. Airport check-in systems, airlines' website, and smartphone apps were affected. And Airbus is hit by many attacks in every year. Using RDP, according to McAfee report, attackers use RDP to gain access and perform ransomware attack. San Francisco International Airport attack in March 2020. Attackers hacked the website by inserting malicious code and they stole user data. Crypto mining infection. The attack vector again was a malware, a Bitcoin miner. It executed multiple processes in a very short time. Then the company found the malware and removed it. Wearable devices are important attack vectors too. Passengers have their own devices and they connect to the internet at terminals or during flights. These devices may function as Trojan horse and spread the malware to the airport systems. The vulnerabilities include swing tooth, bleeding bit, blueborn, and Zigbee worm. Airport employees. Phishing can never get old. Employees are targets for phishing attacks. In 2013, the old malware Cybersecurity targeted airports and spread on networks. Advanced persistent threats. Normally they are sophisticated, but for a couple of minutes, forget everything I said. All the botnets, malwares, drones, high technology systems, and everything. The most dangerous kind is the human APT. This is really creepy. For example, in Turkey, an insider became an APT in 2010. This man was an employee in one of the airport services. Then he found pilot uniforms, ID cards, and everything. He pretended to be a pilot for about 6 months and nobody noticed him. He entered the rooms where the pilots gather all the flight information. He entered the lounges where the flight crew chill out. And of course, he was deadheading a lot. Probably because he saw the scene in the movie Catch Me If You Can. Maybe he said to himself, if you are an imposter in an airport, you have to be a deadhead. Jokes aside, thank God he did not try to fly an aircraft. This situation could be a disaster. After 6 months, they somehow found out that he is not a pilot. Wow. And what is funnier, after this incident, the only security prevention was checking personnel ID cards. You have an ID, you can go. True story. Human advanced persistent threats will always be dangerous. Insider threats are dangerous in general. Employees with privileged access to systems may cause data stealing. In 2019, for example, an employee was caught stealing customer data in order to sell them. And the future of smart airports, probably it will be touchless. There will be more automated devices, contactless check-in, no interaction with physical interfaces, maybe no interaction with the ground staff. Simply walk through the security controls, gates, lounges to the aircraft. Here we can see assistance at a terminal representing the autonomous Landside operations. And the photo on the right side, there is an apron vehicle. It takes baggage to the aircraft on the apron, representing the autonomous airside operations. Amsterdam Airport, Schiphol, started the Autonomous Airside Operations program. The aim is a fully autonomous airport by 2050. Also, Rotterdam and Eindhoven airports are also expected to start testing autonomous baggage tractors. Of course, these technologies need some maturing, but the smart airports will evolve quickly because aviation is a very dynamic sector. COVID accelerated the digitization and automation in airports. As we can see, the Airports Council International Survey, the future is near. 89% of airports confirmed that they offered self-service check-in options, and 64 said that 64% said that they have implemented biometric-enabled immigration border gates, and the others said that, for example, 77% of airports will implement the infrastructure, and 67% of airports will implement the self-service boarding gates. The aviation industry have been evolving continuously, and it will be evolving forever. As about to end the presentation, I would like to pay an homage to this woman, Hedy Lamarr, for her invention of frequency hopping spread spectrum method. She invented this method in 1942. Thanks to this method, we now have technologies like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, etc. IoT uses these technologies, and it will evolve too. Well, thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. I was so excited. Thank you, IoT Village team, for your support. Thank you for your attention. I will be happy to answer your questions on Discord. Have a nice day.